What if I told you that the best way to edit on the beat is to edit off the beat? It sounds contradictory, right? Let me explain. Now, as humans, we are visual creatures. Our eyes lie, but our ears don't. These were the words of auditory neuroscientist Seth Horowitz. Now let's talk about the speed of sound for a minute. I hope I don't lose you guys. Let me explain something real quick here. While it takes the brain at least 1/4 of a second to process visual recognition, it only takes about 0.05 seconds for the brain to process sound recognition. Over a long period of time, our brains have evolved into this fast machine that is able to recognize the differences between sounds, and thanks to evolution, we can sense changes that occur in sound in less than 1 millionth of a second. Now, this is why I initially said in the video was starting that the best way to edit to the beat is editing off the beat. Now let's dive into Premiere and we see a real practical application of this scientific concept and why the best way to edit to the beat is editing off the beat. You'll notice that I already have a bunch of clips here and an audio track. All the footage in this video has been downloaded from pexels.com, which is a royalty-free website where you can download footage and images to use in your project. Some of it requires you to give credit to the creator, but not often. And the audio track in this tutorial here has been downloaded from Uppbeat.com, which is another website where you can download sound effects, music that you can use for your projects. Now, when you are in Premiere, you need to magnify your sequence so that you're able to see the waveform of your audio file. Now let me play back and you listen to this. Are you guys hearing that knock? Let me just take it back a little bit. You guys hear that knock there? That's a beat. So we're going to create a marker right there, okay? So using M on your keyboard, you can just hit M on your keyboard to create a marker. Make sure that the audio track is selected, okay? You can magnify this so that you're able to see the waveform clearly where the beat is, okay? The spike usually is where the beat drops. You heard that? So I'll bring this back. You guys see that this little line spike here? That's where that knock happens. So I'm going to create a marker right there. Because of the concept that we just discussed, we're going to drop this 1, 2. It's good to drop it 2 frames. So you drop it 1, 2 frames before the beat. And that's where we're going to create a marker, okay? So we'll create our first marker there. Play. Right here is the second. There. Here. There. So we'll drop 1, 2. Create a second marker and play. You can let the track actually play and just make sure that every time you hear the drop of the beat, you hit M on the keyboard to create a marker right on that spot. So let this play. Okay, so I think that's roughly good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create cuts for my footage. So I'm now going to go to the video tracks and begin creating the cuts. I already have the markers. So I'm going to create cuts at every point where I placed a marker. However, I'm going to make sure that I adjust those cuts 2 frames before the beat drops. And one more thing, it's always good to cut your footage where there is movement. So you don't cut on a still frame. It's always good to cut your video footage where there is movement. That's what I'm going to do here. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to lock audio track. And then we're going to use a shortcut. We're going to use Q and W on the keyboard. Q deletes everything that is before the playhead. Okay? For example, if I hit Q here, it will delete everything before the playhead. I'll just quickly undo that. Okay. While W deletes everything after the playhead, it report deletes. So I'll hit W to report delete right there. So if you play, this is what happens. There is our next bit. It's right there. So I'm going to report delete this using W on the keyboard, like that. And when you play back, so the cut is supposed to happen there. Hit W. Now, this particular clip here has that point where the butterfly just flies away. That is where I want to cut. Right there. Right where it disappears. So I'll report delete that. And then I'll pull this back. Just like that. Pull this in. So that's where I want my cut to be, right? So that's where the cut is, and we're going to move 2 frames. So just expand this so that it covers up that other gap that was created when I trimmed the clip. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go 2 frames down there and then create a cut. Boom. Let's report delete that. So we have this. Now here is a bit that drops right there. Okay. So I'll move 2 frames, 1, 2. And then I will report delete. Okay. So let's report delete here. 1, 2. And then when you play back, see that? Right there. So I'll just move my playhead and create a cut. I'll just trim that clip. I want where she moves. And we can actually speed this clip up, for example. Let's speed this clip up to 200. Right, so we have. Let's just adjust that part where she just there. Let's adjust it a little bit. So you can do some fine tuning. And then we have that. So there where her foot just goes down is where we're going to create our next cut. Okay. So that's where the beat is. 1, 2 frames, okay? Repo delete. Then bring your next clip. So we have now this particular clip here, I'm going to trim it. Now, when you observe this, you realize that she's facing this way, but because video is moving from left to right, that is the progression that I want to keep, right? I want to keep everything moving to the right. So I don't want her to look left and then create the cut. I want her to look right, okay? That's where I want the cut to be. So I'll bring this back. There. Where she just looks to the right. That's where the cut is going to come. So let's move. I know that's where our beat is. So I'm going to move 2 frames. Of course, this particular marker was created in a wrong spot, which is why you always need to listen, because our eyes lie, but our ears don't. So we'll move 2 frames down. 1, 2. Then repo delete. Let's play back. Here's another bit drop here. Okay. 1, 2. Repo delete. There is another drop. 1, 2. I think this was where the cut was supposed to be. So we'll do 1, 2. Okay. And then repo delete. There. Let's look at it. The beat is right there, but look at where the marker is. So we're going to assume that our marker was right here. Then we'll go 1, 2, delete. So when you play back from the start, this is what we have. That just ties everything together, unlike if you're editing on the beat. What I mean by editing on the beat is people who create the cut at exactly where the beat drops. For example, when you look at these waveforms, people like creating a cut where the beat drops right there. Now, with a scientific explanation of how our brains process sound and visual recognition, make sure that you create your cut at least 2 frames before the beat drops. That way you'll tie everything together. So that is how you can edit to the beat. So with the scientific explanation that I made at the start of the video, I hope this now makes sense when I say that the best way to edit to the beat is to edit off the beat. If you've watched the video up to this point, you can give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing, because that helps out with the YouTube algorithm. That is all I had for you guys today, and I hope to see you guys very soon. I'm out of here. Goodbye. Peace.